Hey everyone, me again. If you're new around here, my name's Alice and I make videos all about affordable beauty and fashion. And today I'm going to be talking about a foundation that I've actually had for a little while. This is the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover Foundation in the shade 100 Warm Ivory. I have mentioned this in a few of my videos already, including the video I did where I talked about all the foundations I bought in 2019 and what I think of them now. However, I realised I haven't actually put this on my face in a video, so I wanted to do that so that you could see what it looks like and how it performs, but I also wanted to have all my thoughts and all my opinions on it just in one place, just so it makes things easier for you guys if any of you are interested in this foundation. So I am wearing it today and I am going to cut to the footage where I chuck this on my face in just a moment, but before we do that, let's talk about the actual product. So this is £10.99, which I think is about 99p more than I think a drugstore foundation should cost. I really don't see why it couldn't have just been £10 or £9.99. All of Maybelline's other foundations are under £10, so I'm not sure what's so special about this one. It comes in 20 shades, I believe, which is it's alright, isn't it, for a drugstore foundation? I haven't seen the shade selection in person, but from what I've seen on the internet, it does look like it could do with going a teeny bit darker, in my opinion. I do think, especially with the paler shades, the undertones are kind of all over the place. That's not just a problem I find with Maybelline, I see that a lot in drugstore foundations. With the paler shades, undertones are always too pink or too yellow, and it's very difficult if you have a neutral undertone like me to find something that matches properly. So I have the second palest shade here, this is 100 Warm Ivory, and this one is incredibly yellow. The shade below this, 095, is a bit too pink, so if you normally go for the same shade foundation as I do, then you might struggle a bit to find something that's an absolutely perfect match in this range. One thing I do really like about this though is the packaging. I think that was something that really appealed to me when I first bought the foundation. So it comes in this nice squeezy tube and it's got a really fine nozzle, so I find it really easy to get the exact amount of product that I want out of this. This is one of my preferred methods of packaging. I either like a travel-friendly kind of tube like this, or I prefer a bottle with a pump. I think nowadays, because I travel a little bit more for work, I do prefer this sort of packaging. Anyway, I think that's everything you need to know at this point, so now I'm just going to show you how I apply this. So this is what my skin looks like. I have pale skin with a neutral undertone. My skin is dry and fairly sensitive. I'm prone to quite a bit of skin redness, especially around my cheeks and my jaw just here. I've got some skin texture on my forehead, but nothing too bad at all. And I don't typically get a lot of spots, but I've got a few at the moment just because of hormones and stuff. I'm 29, so I've got a few fine lines creeping in, but there's nothing too serious. So that just gives you an idea of what we're dealing with. So I find that this foundation has a satin finish, and I usually use an oil primer just to make it look a little bit more forgiving on my dry skin. So I'm using the Revolution baking oil today. So I normally like to apply this with a brush just to really build up the coverage where I can, but today I'm going to apply it with a brush on one side of my face and a sponge on the other, just so that you can see the difference. I like to use quite a dense brush like this one from Real Techniques. This is their sculpting brush. So as you can see, it looks quite pale. I think there is a shade above this, but I think it's just a little bit too dark. But usually I can get this one to work. I will apply something like a liquid bronzer before I put this on, or I'll be quite generous with my contour when I've finished my makeup, which is probably what I'll do today. It's not got amazing coverage. It's definitely not full coverage. However, because the shade is so yellow, I do find that it kind of counteracts my skin redness quite nicely. So this is just one layer of foundation on this side of my face. So you can see I've still got a lot of freckles showing through, you can see my spots, but it's really toned down my skin redness just because of how yellow it is, and that's why I've been reaching for it so often over winter. There's still quite a bit of skin redness showing in my problem areas, so I'll be building that up with the brush. So I would call this a light to medium coverage foundation. You can definitely build it a little bit, but you're not going to be able to cover everything. So So I've managed to build it up a little bit more now. It's still not full coverage, but this is kind of what I'll build it up to when I normally wear this. And you can really see just how yellow it is when you compare the two sides of my face. So I've managed to get a pretty decent medium coverage out of this. This is the kind of look that I would happily wear on an everyday basis. So I'm just going to do the other side of the sponge now, just so that you can compare the two. The sponge that I'm using is from AOA. Most of my sponges are from AOA, and straight away I can tell that it's absorbing a lot more product than my brush normally does. But yeah, hopefully you can see that. But I'm not getting anywhere near as much coverage. In fact, it almost looks like I haven't put any foundation on. So I'm just getting a bit more product out. Normally the amount that I got out of the tube would have been enough to do my whole face, but the sponge has just absorbed so much that I'm having to go in for more. So the finish is really nice. It looks really natural on the skin, and it's definitely not as prone to streaking as a foundation brush. However, I am just not getting the coverage when I do it this way. And I'm using a lot more product as well. But yeah, I just need a little smidge more coverage, so I'm just going to build it up with the brush. And this is how my face is looking after putting the foundation on. I think when I first bought this foundation, my biggest complaint was that it says it's full coverage, but it obviously isn't. It's a light to medium buildable coverage. As you can see, I've managed to make it work. I think there are definitely some areas where I'll go in with concealer. So really it does all depend on how much coverage you want, and also if you can find a shade that suits you. This one is just a teeny bit yellow for me and a little bit too light as well. I'd rather have something a bit closer to the F1 shade in the Revolution shade range. So I'm going to hop off camera and do the rest of my makeup now. So normally when I wear this, I get a foundation stick and I would kind of go over the bits of redness around my jaw, which I'm obviously not going to do today because that will affect how it looks. But I'm still going to use a little bit of concealer in some areas, I think. So I'm going to do that. I might use a little bit of powder foundation as well, but if I do, then I'll let you know when I'm back. Alright, so the rest of my makeup is on. As you can see, I've just gone for a really simple everyday look today. I'm not really going anywhere or doing anything fancy. So as I said, normally when I wear this foundation, I kind of layer it with something else, like a foundation stick. And I'll admit, without doing that, I did kind of struggle a bit just to cover the redness around my cheeks and around my jaw. I went in with the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer in 05. This is a very similar colour, texture and finish to the Dream Urban Cover foundation. So if you want something that really complements it, this will do the job. So I used this under my eyes and over my areas of redness. I also used a more full coverage concealer over my blemishes. This is the Collection Lasting Perfection Concealer in the shade 0 Extra Fair. And then things were looking not matte, but just a little bit drier than I usually prefer. So I went in with the Makeup Obsession Matte Baked Powder. It's called a Stay Matte Powder. It's definitely not. It's a baked powder. There's a bit of a glow, a bit of a radiance to it. Also, this has got a nice neutral undertone to it, and I found that the shade really helped counteract the yellow of the foundation and the concealer. I still had a bit of redness peeking through though, so I did have to use just the tiniest bit of powder foundation. The one I use is by Revolution Pro. This is their powder foundation in the shade F2. And then I've also used setting spray as well. I use setting spray every single day, no matter how long I want to wear my makeup for. If you've got dry skin like I do, setting spray just really helps all the products mesh into the skin a little bit better. So it's about 11:30 in the morning now. I was planning on keeping this on my face until about 7:30 in the evening, so that's a good 8 hours. And then I'll check back in and we can see how it's worn during the day. Usually this foundation does hold up quite well, so I'm expecting good results. I'll see you guys in 8 hours. Bye. So as promised, it's 7:30 and I've got my nightgown on again just for the check-in. So I'm definitely showing signs of wear, which is what I would expect after wearing a foundation for 8 hours. I think overall it's lasted reasonably well, but there are definitely areas where I've built up more concealer, where I needed that extra coverage, where it's starting to break down a lot more. So you'll see in the close-ups that around my nose is looking quite bad, around my mouth as well. The centre of my forehead isn't looking brilliant. I do have a little ridge on my nose, but that's just from my glasses. All my foundations do that, so try to ignore that. Overall, it's not too bad. I could definitely work with this. Like, if I had to go out right now, I could probably touch this up and make it look pretty good. I just need to get a bit of blotting paper and put it around my nose, and then maybe add a bit more concealer and powder back into that area, and then I think I'd be okay. And work on the chin a bit as well, but yeah, I'll be fine. But yeah, this is one of my go-to foundations for when I want my makeup to last a lot longer than usual. I don't normally keep my makeup on for 8 hours, I just did so today for the purpose of a wear test, but on the rare occasions where I do need my base to last all day, then this is one of the ones that I will go for. So hopefully that sums up all my thoughts on the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover Foundation. I'll admit I didn't fall in love with this straight away, but after using it with oil primers and more luminous setting powders and layering it with foundation sticks and stuff like that, I did find a way to make this work for me. I really love this as a go-to travel foundation. It's one of my favourites for taking out and about with me. I do like the fact that it has the SPF 50 in there for travel as well, even though I wear a dedicated sunscreen every single day because I'm ginger and I have to. I still like having a little bit of SPF in my foundation. I know that I'm not going to wear enough foundation to actually get the full SPF 50, but I still kind of like having something in there. I also like that the formula is very lightweight and most of the time lasts reasonably well on me. So whether or not I recommend it to you just depends on whether or not you find a shade that matches you, which is going to be difficult, and also how much coverage you need as well. If you're like me and you have quite a bit of skin redness, there are other foundations that you might find easier to work with, like the Revolution Conceal and Hydrate, which I have a review on. Personally, I find it easier just to get a medium to full coverage foundation and then sheer it out when I want a lighter coverage look, instead of getting something with a light to medium coverage and then having to keep layering it and possibly add something else on top. I also think I'd really like to compare this foundation to another one in my collection. I've done that before, or I put one foundation on half my face and another one on the other half. I'm thinking the L'Oreal True Match might be a good one to compare this to, but if you want to see this compared to something else, then let me know in the comment section. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so I know, and feel free to subscribe if you're new around here. I'm uploading twice a week at the moment, on Wednesdays and Sundays at 9 AM. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!